That was that power perseverance today. You see, I got the poster. I see it on the back. I see it. Right here. Oh, here we go. Happy.
It was me, so I'm not happy. Cry yourself to sleep. Shout and raise your hand. It won't change a thing, child, until you understand. If you're tired, if you're tired, he's not changing.
Are you tired of the same old? You know, there's a simple solution. All you have to do is get out of the driver's seat, get in the passenger seat, or some of us need to get in the back seat, because God will drive our lives, and He just all we've got to do is give it to Him and let Him handle it. I'm a living witness that He will. Welcome to all of the listeners and followers out there. Welcome to P equals GE squared. The P stands for power. If you want some power, then you need to get to know the G. And the G is God Almighty. And then once you get to know and hanging out with God Almighty, you want to make sure that you get an education, the first E. And the second E, for all you math, your geometry, algebra majors, when I say square, that means there's two E's. The second E, you acquire some economics. Because you see, one of the major problems in our community, the African American black community, is that we don't have any economics. What did they do back in the day? They destroyed the Black Wall Street. When Reconstruction was booming, they decided that we didn't need that. Oh, well, that talk a good game. A lot of us are talking now about these statues, removing statues, and we're spending an inordinate amount of time and energy talking about statues when we ought to be talking about the 40 acres and the mills that they owe us. Some economics. Then if we have economics, we can fend for ourselves. But as long as we're on the plantation, that plantation where we beg, they give us everything, we can't think for ourselves. Well, that's another topic, another day. I'm Thomas Long, your host. And I've got two guests today. My first guest, I'm going to bring him on in a minute, and then my second guest. But what I want to do is I always do, what's going on in the United States, what's going on in Tennessee, and what's going on in Memphis. Well, we know that Mr. Tweeter, the president, he's always what's going on in the United States. Those of you last week had an opportunity to witness the testimony of Cohen, and he talked over and over. I read in the newspaper today that the United States Senate, they're not going to vote for allowing the president to take money, declare a national disaster and pool money. They're not. They've indicated that he is going to veto the bill, and then he's going to build a wall. Well, we'll just let God deal with the wall builders. And that's about all I'm going to say about Trump. I'm going to talk about him at this point in time. What's going on in Memphis? Well, Governor Lee gave his annual State of the Union address last night. He talked about a number of things. But one area that caught my eye was where he's talking about prisoners, reforming prisoners, allowing them to take classes, going to work, and they can reduce their time. I've said it over and over again on this show. It doesn't make sense to allow an individual to go to prison, sit there, do nothing, learn nothing, can't fend for himself, and then when he gets out, he's back in. Read, become knowledgeable about read daily. The one is the Bible. I'm not going to get into how quickly you can read it, but you need to read it. I read it daily. And then you need to read the dictionary. The dictionary. Then you'll know that you've got more words that are S words than any other alphabet in the dictionary. Because then you can communicate and you can do all those kinds of things. And that's where we are. Again, let me thank for it. We are able to remain on the airways. The power of marketing media. In this beautiful new directors this media center that we're in right now. We were on the last week. This is our second week in. So give us a call. I want to be sure because I was giving the wrong number, the telephone number. I will give that number out shortly because I was getting ready to give. The new number is 901-452-3094. 901-452-3094. Hopefully I won't be giving the incorrect number because I've been giving that number for some 4 years. But the number, 901-452-3094. Now today, last week was the last show we had for Black History for the month of February. But we had some difficulty. We couldn't air the show. But I've got a gentleman. I was attending a church. And when I walked in, he was up giving a narrative of Black history. I knew then and there that I had to have him on my show. I asked him and he graciously agreed. He was able to GPS his way out to the radio station today. I've just learned how he knows how to navigate. I'm about to get on his coattails. But let me introduce to all of you out there, Reverend Gene Cummins. Reverend, say hello to the radio listening land.
Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be here.
And so, Reverend, I was so excited. You're a Navy man.
Yes, sir.
Why don't you just tell the audience, the listening audience, a little about yourself and a little about the Navy. Then we'll get into the Black History program.
Yeah, I joined the Navy in 1955, and it was just integrating in the Navy from the order of President Truman, and it put me in steam engineering. And we had no blacks. There were 17 of us in the entire Navy, and I was one of them.
17. I want y'all to listen. That was 17 blacks.
17 blacks, and that was in
the Navy.
In the whole Navy.
In the entire Navy. Yes. 17.
Yes. And so I studied hard and went on through. In 13 months, I made that. I was a third class, which is E4, what a lot of people you know about. And within 2 years, I was E5. I was on my way up, and Lord really blessed me to do that. And I never, when I made that out of the first class, I continued my Navy career. I usually had a crew of about 40 people. I never had 2 African Americans or black, however you want to put it, in my crew in my entire Navy career. So it was really something. So I wanted to be sure that I did the best I could do, and I tried to train the men as I could outside of the Navy. But it was kind of hard to do because, as Brother Long said, it's kind of hard to get our people to understand something they never heard of before, and they just want to ignore it. So that was primarily me, and I did it, and I retired in 1975 with a rank of Petty Officer First Class, and I qualified also to be a top steam engineer in Merchant Marine, also as supervisor with TVA plants, those type of plants like that. I would be a senior operator.
So you've been retired roughly 45 years.
40 years.
40 years.
Yeah.
God, but you're still going strong.
Still trying.
And then trying to educate our young people
yes, sir.
About some of the things about the Navy.
Right. We now primarily, our military now, Navy, primarily a group of technicians in uniform. You have to be able to read and write well. I can teach anybody to navigate or work on boilers or those kind of things. Test fuel, what you call field engineer, test fuel. But you got to know how to read and write, brothers and sisters. You can't just walk out there and think you can do it just on the job training. You've got to have some academic education before you get out there. I can't teach you anything if you can't read.
So what's the requirements? Because I remember in 1967, 68, maybe even 69, I tried to join the Navy, but I was not 18 years old. And so they wouldn't do that. they told me to come back when I was 18 years of age, and then when I got 18, unfortunately, the Navy was the farthest thing from my brain.
Oh, back then. I can understand. Well, that was a very trying time. Even today, it's very hard to qualify to get into the military. The last stats we had was something like only about, probably 7 out of 100 can qualify to go into the military period because of the stringent requirements you need to be able to read and write and the technical things you do.
So if African Americans are attempting to get into the Navy, what percentage, when you look at the different branches, the 4 branches of the military, what would you say African American? What percentage would you, in terms of the Navy?
Well, right now I would say Navy and Air Force about 10 for on that. I would say less than 10%. Less than
10%.
Yes,
Navy and Air Force.
Yes.
So most of us, obviously, we're in the Army,
right.
And then from there you're going to go into the Marines,
right?
And then from there you got the Navy and the Air Force.
Yes. You know.
So if you're listening out there, moms and dads, your children out there, teach. It's time out. You know, we've been blaming white folks a long time about a lot of things. But as I say on this show over and over again, it is up to the parents. We are responsible for making sure that our children read and write. Turn some of those gadgets off, those iPhones, right. All that stuff. But make sure Billy and Mary can read and write. And then it's a whole host of opportunities that will open up for your boys and girls. And so there's no need for us to simply continue to say our boys and girls can't read. Turn off the television. Turn off the video game. You got them there. Buy some books. Put them in your house and make them read.
Yes, sir. I agree wholeheartedly. That's one of the things we have very hard on. I use the thing sometimes. I tell them, young ladies at my church, I tell them, I know you have your little boyfriends, your whatever, your little booze and everything, but you have to be sure you get them a card. Make sure they get a card. And they said, what kind of card is that, Pastor? And I said, well, get them to make sure they got a library card. Help them learn how to read if you want them to become part of what you want them to be.
A library card. You see what Reverend Cummings said? Make sure that your boyfriend, your girlfriend, that you got a library card. This is Pete with GE Square, 901-452-3094. Please give us a call. I have with me Pastor Cummings, and he's going to talk to us about the Navy.
Yes, Lord. The Navy is really something. When you were trying to go in, it was really tough then in Vietnam. And our losses were probably 20%. If you think about the fact that we only made up 12 to 13% of the nation, that's a lot of losses. The Navy primarily did a lot of shipboard stuff, but then we had a lot of people going over. But now there are a lot of jobs. You need to look for the unusual jobs when you think about going into the military. You have to remember, every job you get in the Navy, especially in the Air Force, I'm going to use the Air Force too, because it's split into a lot of jobs. And in my job, like steam engineer, I was operating a power plant, the boilers, but at the same time, you become a pipe fitter, you become a steam fitter. All these jobs would run anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 a year. It doesn't take long to learn it, but it takes diligence. And you have to be, one thing you have to be careful about it is what you're doing with it. You know, some people take it lightly. You have to be committed to what you're doing. Otherwise, you can hurt a lot of people and you can cause things. If I'm operating a TV and playing on white, if I make a mistake, all the lights in Whitehaven, part of those in North Mississippi are going to go out. So those kind of things, you got a lot of knowledge, you got a lot of pressure on you, you got a lot of commitment to what you're doing.
And he joined the Navy when there was only 17.
17.
17 in the entire Navy.
Yes,
17. So what I'll say to you out there, if you're listening out there, if you don't know where, if you're not disciplined, most young people are not, the military may be the place.
Yes.
Just don't join the Army because you want to go there, but look at the Navy, look at the Air Force, look at the Marines, because when they show you on television, they talk about a few good men. They talk about the Marines, and then they talk a little about the Army. But every time you see a pilot, you see them flying in the Air Force, or if you see them on the big ships, on the submarines, the Navy. And so I encourage you, please, look at some options. If you're not ready to go to college, then and you go and take the test and travel free on Uncle Sam.
Yes,
see the world. Then you can make some decisions. Because one thing about the military, you're going to be disciplined. You're going to be disciplined, and you're going to function. So when you get out in the real world, discipline will be simply very easy for you to achieve.
Yes, sir. There was a Captain Hugh Mozak was in World War II. He was born in 1886, but he wanted to be all his life he wanted to be a captain. And he went through the school, went through high schools, but he couldn't do it because he was a black man. But when World War II came on, they called him out of the merchant marine and made him a captain. So he became captain. They gave him a ship called the Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington was named after Booker T. Washington. They wanted him to have all Negro crew. He wouldn't do it. He said, no, I don't want to do that. He got a hold of the NAACP and others, and they protested, and they integrated the crew. So you could say he was already a civil rights activist while on board ship. He went ahead on and did that. And when they christened the ship, two of our great people were standing there. Mahalia Jackson was there, and Marion Anderson was there. They had christened the Booker T. Washington, integrated crew, the first one ever was in the military. He did that from 1944 until 1947. When he came out of it. So that was the kind of people I like to look up to, because they, in spite of that, he was already 56 years of age, but he never gave up. He also was a top chef, but he never gave up on his dream and to become a captain, and that's what he did.
Teach, Pastor. Teach.
Yes, sir.
Teach. That's what I want. Teach. Let these young folk and some old folk know about the Navy, about the ship.
Yes, sir.
Booker T. Washington, the christening of, you said Mahalia Jackson, and who was the other one?
Marion Anderson.
Marion Anderson, with the melodious voice.
Yes.
See, that's what, when I heard Pastor Commons talking, I knew I was going to bring him on the show because I want him to impart some tremendous wisdom. Now, I know some of you all listening out there, call us. Let me know you're listening. 452-3094, 901 area code, 452-3094. Go ahead, Pastor.
I just wanted to let you know that there are some great opportunities, and more and more they're bringing people on, putting them through ROTC, and they're going into the Navy, and they're going in with the skill. I have nothing against the millennials. I think the millennials are great. They have more opportunity. They understand the new electronic thing, and so they're able to comprehend it. We still trying to figure out how to use a cell phone sometimes.
Let me raise my hand. I'm guilty.
But they know how to do it. So it's an interesting thing. One other thing you need to know is about the retirement. Where else can you retire at 38 years of age, work another job, and retire again before you're eligible for Social Security? Come on now. Let's look at those kinds of things.
Listen to it now. Retire after 20 years. You go in at 18, 20 years, you're 38.
Yes.
And one thing about the military, Uncle Sam takes care of his soldiers.
Yes, sir.
It takes care of them. And then you can get another job. And they guarantee you, I know when people got out of the Air Force, they went to the Postal Service.
Right.
And then they're making $50,000, $70,000. Then you can also, when you get out, you want to go to college, Uncle Sam will pay for your college education.
Right.
So don't get caught up in all this black and white stuff and say, I'm not going into military and all that. A military is a great option, a great opportunity. Yeah. I really wanted to go to the Navy, but when I got 18, I decided that's not what I wanted to do because I was doing a lot of other dumb stuff. But I'm simply saying to you out there, listen, there's a story out there about African Americans in the Navy. And hopefully you're listening and making some notes. So when you go to school, parents, talk to your children. Go to the library. Check out books on blacks in the Navy. Check it out. Go ahead, Pastor.
Yes, sir. We had Michelle Obama in the White House. There was another Michelle Howard, and she was on the ship that was protecting Somalia pirates when they kidnapped one of our ships, and she was the commanding officer. She was the full commander, full captain. And when President Obama told them, if they try to harm our people, take them out. And Captain Howard gave that order to save our people, and she did. She went on to become a 4-star admiral, the only black named Michelle Howard, who retired about a year and a half ago. She gave that order. She became Assistant Chief of Naval Operations for the entire Navy, and not just one command.
4-star.
4-star. Michelle Howard.
Michelle Howard gave the order.
Yes, sir. And she was somebody else. She was a great speaker, great person to have. She was here 2 years ago to visit us here in Memphis, Tennessee. And what get me as long as that nobody ever says that. All these great people come to Memphis, you never hear a thing about it. No politician greets them. Nobody even knows they're here.
And that's why when I heard you talking at the church,
yes, sir,
I said I wanted all Memphians and everybody listening and watching on video to hear your story, because I consider myself somewhat knowledgeable, and I didn't have a clue. Yes, and I said, if I don't have a clue, that means a lot of other folks don't have a clue. Likewise. So that's why I'm so glad you decided to come and share. Go right ahead.
Oh, I'll tell you, I'm just happy to be here. I just let everybody know that it is a career. It is something you can do, and not only that, it's something you can be proud of. In my family, I had 6 brothers, and we all served. 2 of us retired. A couple did time in the Air Force, and we had one who was a Ranger. He did 6.5 years. So we were kind of a military family. My youngest son retired Navy. He's about to retire from the post office. He just mentioned. So he's going to be a double dipper.
Double dipper. Look, I'm not playing, but I noticed also that you are the district
chaplain of the Veteran of Foreign Wars. Yes, sir.
And what do you do? What's
well, I attend conferences, and we push our commitment to trying to work with the community as much as we can. Veterans, we work with them, disabled veterans and sick people like that, and we just try to get a place also. Sometimes the best therapy in the world for combat veterans is to be able to talk with other combat veterans, have places they will come and go. So that's why the VFW come in. We have a young lady who will become the first African-American district commander female this coming June by the name of Cassandra Williams, who's right here in Memphis, Tennessee. She's the 100% disabled veteran from Iraq. She was wounded in Iraq, and she's becoming our district commander in June of this year. She's a wonderful soul, and we've been really doing some great things. And they're bringing in new things, trying to get more and more young people involved, really from the Iraqi veterans, because it seems like they got more trouble. The Vietnam vets, we're fading now. We want to get more younger people involved to really help, and also associate ourselves more with the civilian community, let them know what we're doing, and we're not just out here doing nothing. And sometimes people get the wrong idea, retire doing nothing. No, we sponsor boys clubs, old folks' homes, and children's things, all kinds of stuff. We also work with some schools, Creative Life, Christian Preparatory School. We part and parcel of that. So the Lord has really blessed us to do a lot of things in the community.
And you've got so much energy. I tell you, I noticed you're ready to go back to work.
Yes.
You got all this energy, all of this knowledge, and you are sharing that knowledge with young and old and anybody that will listen, because the Vietnam War, that was
horrible.
That was a devastating war. I can remember that my brother was there, and God bless his soul. He's no longer with us. He went to the war, didn't smoke or drink, came back with all kinds of habits, and he wouldn't talk. He just said he saw so much over there that and all the other friends of mine that they went over there, and I'm so glad to know that they're now finally. The VA hospital is doing as much as they can possibly do to assist the veterans, especially the Vietnam veterans, because that was a cold, useless, that we lost more lives over there.
Yes, over 58,000.
58,000 lives. Yes, and they would send those young boys over there, and the guys would tell me when they were getting ready to go out that it's just, and I, to all of you that's listening out there, if you've got a grandfather, a father that was over there in the Vietnam War, reach out to him, talk to him, and maybe he'll share with you. Maybe they will, especially the boys. You need to talk to your fathers, your grandfather, great-grandfather, and find out what they went through. Because a lot of the young people don't even want to talk about the military. No. But the military is a great career. I don't care what they say. We have to understand we cannot allow folk like Trump set us back 50 years on race relations, black and white, us against them, make America white again. You can't allow that to happen. Yes, we had some issues, but we got to press on and move forward, because Reverend Cummings, Pastor Cummings, was one out of the 17 in the entire Navy. Entire Navy. Think about it. Think about it. Pastor, you want to make some closing comments before we move on to the second phase?
Yes, I just wanted to say, you have to remember during the Vietnam War, we was also watching what was going on in the United States. Foreign correspondents, they would simply record what they saw and replay it. So we put it into places like Hong Kong or Singapore. They had these big television screens, and we could see soldiers walking through the streets of Memphis, stomping people and all of that kind of stuff. And we 15, 20,000 miles away, and we watch what's happening to our people back home. And we said that we have more tears shed for ourselves over there than people were here. And so it was a double-edged sword for us. And you tell me, well, it's just National Guardsmen. I can't tell the difference between a National Guard tank and an Army tank. They're both tanks, and they're both made for the military. And so that was the thing we had. So yes, when Dr. King was assassinated, I might close with this. When Dr. King was assassinated, we went to the back of my ship, the USS Veteran. Never will forget it. Young man from Booker T. Washington named Turner, beautiful voice. We went back there. We went in prayer and had singing on the back of the ship because of what's happening at home. So we would have had a double-edged thing for us. Sure, we were military. We were doing what we were supposed to do, had to do, but at the same time, our hearts was at home because our people were being mistreated by people who were supposed to have been taking care of them while we were away. Thank you.
Pastor Gene Cummings, Reverend Gene Cummings, let me thank you.
Yes,
I want you to come back and we can talk, because my heart was heavy when I heard you speak. And I wanted everyone out there listening to P = GE², as I said, if you truly want some power,
yes,
get to know God, get you an education, learn, be able, I don't care how tough it is, open the book up, read and write. It's time out. When they said, Memphis, we only graduating roughly 28% of our youngsters. There's problems. We've got to assume the responsibility, because this world that we live in, this grand world,
yes,
with an education, you can do anything that you want. So I want to thank you on behalf of P = GE². Power equals God. You got to know Him. Get you an education.
yes, sir.
Acquire some economics. And as I always say affectionately, I haven't said it today, but I'm going to say it. Then you buy you a politician, because politicians determine who get how much of what when. We elect them in the black community, but other folks control them through their political contributions.
Yes,
and we look at our neighborhoods and things that are happening. It's time to get busy. So I want to challenge all of you out there to be just like Reverend Gene Cummings. Reverend Gene Cummings, a man, military man, but he's still moving about and teaching and sharing with young people. And again, I want to thank you for coming and being on this show. Thank you so very much. And I'm going to, you can go ahead. I'm going to pay some bills so we can stay on the air. We are 30 minutes. And all of you out there, the call-in number is 901-452-3094. Call us. Or if you're watching us on video, give us the thumbs up. And let Reverend Gene Cummings know that you appreciate. I really appreciate him coming. He has a wealth of knowledge, and I didn't want to see that get away. So thank you so very much. Radio shows such as P = GE². We are on the radio. We are allowed to be on the radio because of sponsors. Our sponsors support the radio show, and because of their sponsorship, P = GE² can remain on the radio. We are going into our 5th year. So what I wanted to do here is to recognize some of our sponsors, Time and Space Advertising. Call them at 901-219-1043. the hourglass of all your advertising needs. Your Wellness Center, 1087 Alice, serving the Pine Hill, Longview, and South Memphis areas. Need a doctor? Flu shot? Got a sick child? Just walk right in or call 901-271-5379. L&S Fish Market, 1301 Winchester Road, 901-332-8093. Stop by and try the whole catfish. It is truly delicious. Yes, delicious. Tennessee Regular Baptist Bookstore, 1055 South Bellevue. You know, reading opens minds and doors to opportunities. I want you to tell Mr. Adrian Killebrew that you heard the advertisement of Tennessee Regular Baptist Bookstore on P=GE Square. Then while you're there, ask him for a 10% discount. Tell him Thomas Long said that. Case Management Incorporated, 3171 Directors Row, corner Brooks and Directors Row. You know, mental illness in the black community is like taboo. Nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody's trying to sweep it up under the rug. But what do you do when you get the flu? You go to a doctor and get treatment for the flu. So if you're sick and if you're experiencing mental disorder, go to Case Management Incorporated, 3171 Directors Row. And what? Go see a doctor because you're sick. And that's all mental illness is. It's a sickness. Steve's Restaurant, 2246 South Lauderdale. Salmon croquettes, catfish nuggets, liver and onions, and yes, whole catfish. 901-775-9203. Go by and see Miss Steens, and I promise you, you will become a regular customer. I'm aging, and I've had cataract surgery. I've had my lens replaced. You notice I put these glasses on when I began to read and give kudos out to our sponsors. But if you are experiencing cataracts, go to the Eye Care Surgery Center. That's who performed my surgery. Dr. Holdenheiser is the ophthalmologist. Dr. Schenzer is the surgeon. Yes, I can see 500 yards. Yes, because if you're experiencing that, go and see the Eye Care Surgery Center. That telephone number is 901-683-4600, the Eye Care Surgery Center. I want to simply say, I want to thank all of our sponsors for sponsoring P=GE Square. If you want power, get to know God, acquire an education, and get some economics. But I encourage all of you out there that if you're viewing us on video or streaming or you're listening on the radio, I encourage you to shop with our sponsors. Because if you shop with our sponsors can remain in business. And then if they can remain in business, P=GE Square can remain on the radio. If you want some power, yes, power. Remember God, education, and economics. It's about the business. I know we've got a lot going on in our communities, but we've got to acquire some economics. We've got to. Here in Memphis, Tennessee, I live in a community where we've got 175,000 African Americans out in Whitehaven. The only thing that we've got going is Graceland, and they can't move Graceland. So we have thousands of people that come every year. But then if you go 5 miles to the south, down on Goodman Road, a town of 24,000 people, but yet still they got every restaurant you can think of, every clothing store you can think of, but yet in my community, 175,000. We've got one restaurant. I'm not going to deal with the guest house. We've got, I think it's called a Pink Pony. You can go there. And there's something wrong with it. We got all these politicians. We got 7 out of 13 on the city council that look like me. We got 8 out of 13 on the county commission that look like me. But we don't have anything. Nobody's talking about restaurants. What's the problem? Oh, I know. They talk about shootings and killings. Shootings and killings. The last time I was on with Brother Muhammad, we talked about ceasefire. Ceasefire, stop the killing. Let's stop spending our money. We're giving away 2.25% to Mississippi and not to Memphis. Nothing is coming back in our communities. We got all these politicians, all of them. Where are they? If they're not going to do anything, go and pick up a petition, a recall petition. Put them out of office. It's time out. It's time out. We've got to do something for our community. We've got to make it happen. And that's my commentary. Now, the second part of our show, I'll sit back and calm down and relax a bit. I've got a young lady. Come on over. Stella James. Come on over, Miss James. Miss James, grab up. Put your headset on. Miss James, she is a poet. She writes poetry. She writes poetry. And I was at a meeting, and the other day, let me find my book. She has published The Poetic Philosophy by Stella James. And the book is dedicated in loving memory of her mother, Lorena Jefferson, an angel materialized. And I heard some of her poems, and I try to stick to a script, but sometimes it's very difficult. So when I heard Miss James, I knew that I wanted Miss James on the show to read some of her poetry. Miss James, why don't you just say hello?
Hello, everyone.
Out there, and tell a little about yourself.
Well, my name is Stella James, and I'm 70 plus years old. And I tell everybody that I am a God-gifted poet because I write poetry, and then I retain it. I can say it from memory, and I can be saying them for hours. I call my poetry poetic philosophy because I was told back in the 90s by a gentleman. I shared 3 of my poems with him, and he told me, that is not poetry. That is philosophy, because everything you said is the truth. So that is where the name Poetic Philosophy came from. And I know that I am God-gifted because of the fact that I write them and retain them.
Would you like to share a couple of poems so I can sit back and listen?
Yes, I would. The first poem that I'm going to share is the first poem that I wrote when I was in the 9th grade. That was in 1963. And it is called Knowledge. May we learn from the days that have passed and gone. Then use that knowledge with days to come. May we act on our feelings, but whatever actions we render, may they enhance our future. May they not be a hinder. May we speak with authority, and may our voices be heard. May our ways and our actions speak louder than our words. May we be able to reach things that was once out of our reach. May we learn from experience, and then may we teach. That is the poem that I wrote when I was in the 9th grade, my first poem, and I called it my wow poem. And the reason why I called it that, because after I wrote it and read it back, I was like, wow, I wonder if I could do that again. And I've done it again and again and again. I can take any subject and create a poem from it.
One of the poems that you and we talked about, the one for the young men.
Oh, okay. I created a poem for these young men, but I'm going to, I did it for the young men, but I'm going to go into something, I wanted to share this with a young man, and he told me after I finished sharing it, he said, "Well, ma'am, I see some old people too with their clothes hanging off." And I said, "Young man, this poem is to encourage the young people, because if there are old people, and I know there are, walking around with their pants hanging off their butts, there's no hope for them." And I want to share it with somebody who there is hope for. And this poem goes like this. Say, young people, look in the mirror and say, enough is enough. You must get rid of those attitudes, clean up your language, and please stop showing your butts. Because I know if you look at the big picture, I am sure you would understand that exposing your underwear and your butts degrades you as a young woman or a young man. This action say to others that for yourself you do not have respect. And if you don't respect yourself, why should others give a hoot or a heck? And God forbid your life was on the line and you had to depend on the use of your hands, then I'm afraid you would have to make a choice between living or actually losing your pants. Then if you was put in a dangerous position and had to run for your lives with your sagging pants as a hindrance, you are apt to meet your demise. Sagging presents a danger to your life and is really a total disgrace. So come on, young people, wake up, grow up, wise up, and put your pants back on your waist.
On your waist.
On your waist.
On your waist. Young folk. Mother, daddy, granddaddy, grandmama, grandfolk, great, all of you have been listening. I hope you heard it, and then you can tell your young people. This is about the young folk. And then we've got another poem, the one that's dealing with God. Jesus, yes, the Jesus poem, yes.
God gave me this inspiration, and it's Jesus is black. I want to take this way back to go back in black history because Jesus is black. It is said that Jesus was born into this world to atone for mankind's sin. And God has no respect of person. So it should not matter about the color of our skin. Then when we was introduced to the Bible, we was told in its contents we must believe. Therefore, the image that is depicted of Jesus must be meant to deceive. Because the Bible say that his feet was like burnt copper. And copper is brown. So if it's burnt, it is surely black. And his hair was like sheep wool. And sheep wool does not hang freely down anybody's back. Then he was born in a manger, surrounded by livestock and hay. Because when Mary went to the inn, the innkeeper turned her away. He said that at the inn, for Mary, there was no room. He did not realize that she was carrying the Savior in her womb. Then when we look where creation was started, the Garden of Eden is in Africa, you see, which means a male and female African are the parent of humanity. And you might not want to acknowledge this is truth, but why not accept it as a biblical fact? Because according to the description given in the Bible of Jesus, Jesus is definitely black.
I hope all you theologians out there, you Christians, Jews, Gentiles, whatever you are, I'm hoping that you're listening to these poems, because Mrs. James, I tell you, when I heard her, I remember when I'm reading all the books about Africa and how the slaves, they would always be singing, or they would be saying their poems, but they would be singing, and then they would doing their thing and they would sing. And Miss James, I think that was another one.
There's one that's called Our Children, Our Future Lost and Found.
Yes, our children, Go ahead and repeat that again.
Our children, our future, lost and found.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Our children today are crying out for help. They are looking for a way out. They are trapped in a maze of confusion and consumed with feelings of self-doubt. Some parents are giving them material things. They will spend on them their very last dime, but they are depriving them of the most precious gifts, which are love and some quality time. Time to talk, time to listen, time to hold them when there is a need, time to teach, time to encourage, time to step up and take the lead. Because our children need positive role models, and their parents should be their first choice. Not celebrities, not athletes, not politicians, but their parents who in their progress we rejoice. As we give our children love, hope, and direction, we will see what a difference it will make. Because love and hope is the means of direction, which teaches them the right road to take. And we should teach our children from whence cometh our help, and that our help do come from God. So in teaching our children, we should make God's word a very important part. You know, our children are our future, and we should see to it that they don't sink, but rather swim. Because if we are not there to throw out a lifeline, then our future will go down with them. So let us throw out that lifeline of love. And as we carefully pull them in, we can wrap them up in charity and hope. And only then will our future begin.
Powerful, powerful, powerful. Now you can see why Miss James is here today. She's going to recite some more poetry, and that means I don't have to talk as much. But I find it so fascinating that you wrote all of these, and not once when you were sharing them with me, you never looked at, and you just, I've got a book here that this doesn't represent a large portion of the poems that you.
Just 25 in that.
Just
book,
25.
I have so many more.
Got so many
25.
more. But it's just when you just recite these poems, I'm reminded when I listen to the poems when we were in school, and of course I want people to know that they can contact if you're interested in have getting Mrs. James to come to your school, to your church. She didn't ask for the plug, I'm plugging. That you can contact my cell phone number. My number is 901-832-2256. I don't want Miss James' line to be blowing up. Then when she tells me that she's ready for you to call another cell phone, we'll do that. But 901-832-2256. She's got poetic philosophy, and here we've got I think about 25 poems, and then there's a poem in here that I'm always talking about fathers because I know what my father meant to me. If you would recite the poem about fathers.
Look, you kind of caught me off balance.
Well, that's okay. We okay.
Let me do this self-motivation, and then maybe I can go back to the.
All right, let's do
I have one in there called "The Man in the Mirror."
The Man in the Mirror, right? The Man in the Mirror. Yes.
This is a motivational poem that I wrote back in the 70s, and my grandson was born. My grandson was born in 1970. My grandson was born in 1992, and when he became old enough to read, he told me, he asked me, Grandma, can I have that poem, a copy of that poem? He said, I want to put it on my bedroom door and read it every night before I go to bed, and he just graduated from college last year.
Wow.
And it goes as such. Get to know the man in the mirror. Then acknowledge that you can succeed. Stop being your own worst enemy. Stay focused and you can take the lead. Stop making excuses for why you can't and pave a way to make sure that you can. While you will run into some obstacles, stay strong and continue to take a stand. Stop giving others the victory because you don't think that you can win. You must have confidence in your abilities. Then your beliefs you must defend. Take initiative, take a stand, take a chance. Be persistent as you aim to reach your goals. And while you strive to be all that you could be, you will proceed to make yourself whole. Then when you get to a door that is locked, just know that that man in the mirror has the key. So keep in touch with the man in the mirror to unlock the door to your destiny.
The man in the mirror. Wow. Miss James, I tell you, wow. You've been reciting poem after poem after poem. This is P equals GE squared. That if you want some power in all that you do, all you have to do is acknowledge God, acquire an education. You heard Reverend Cummings talking about the power of education. Then acquire some economics. Don't throw all your money away on gadgets. Save some money. Shop. Make sure that you do things for your neighbor. But all of that is all about the man in the mirror. Because once you look at the man in the mirror, he's responsible. You may want to blame other folks, but ultimately, the man in the mirror gets the blame.
That is so.
You can just pick. We've got time probably for about two more.
Let me. Since you're reflecting on God and everything, it's one in there that's called God is trying to tell us something.
God is trying to tell us something. Yes. Okay.
There are so There is so much destruction from the tornadoes, such violent winds from the hurricanes. There's so much water from the floods, so many deaths, and so much pain. Can't you see God is trying to tell us something? He's sending us messages every day. The last days are now upon us. Heed the warning and then obey. My heart is heavy. I'm filled with grief. I can see signs of God's return. There is major corruption in our young people. Won't someone stand up and show some concern? We must touch base and then drive it home that God is our only salvation. If we don't have God, there's no substitute. We are headed for hell and damnation. Can't you see God is trying to tell us something? We need leaders who are going to be bold, who will stand up and not take down, and not continue to put God on hold. We look at all the problems of the world, and we wonder just where we went wrong. Well, one of the things was to take prayer out of schools, because when you remove God, the devil sit on the throne. Can't you see God is trying to tell us something? We are living in the last days. Read your Bible. It tells of things that's happening. Sinners, now is the time to change your ways. No one person can solve this world's problems. We must each be willing to do our part. And I ask anyone within the sound of my voice, if you don't already have, please get a personal relationship with God. because God is trying to tell us something.
Wow. Wow. God is trying to tell us something. We are approaching, we've got about 3 minutes remaining. So we've got about 2 minutes. The poem, the Fathers, if you want to do that one.
I haven't done that one in a while.
Well, we can read if you want. You can read that one. You've done 10 poems from memory. Wow, and you wrote them all.
A father plays an important role in the life of his child. His positive attention is the restraint which keeps the child from running wild. A father, as an advisor, must also listen well. For if he listened to the problem before giving advice, the child will have no reason to rebel. When a father interacts with his child, it gives the child so much pride, because that father will be his friend, but he will also be his guide. A father will approach a delicate situation with tender, loving care. And while he cannot always be present when it really matters, he'll be there. A father is high on the list when a role model is what a child needs, because that father will invoke the determination the child needs to succeed. I can't see well without glasses either.
Well, let me see if I can read one. Look. To aid in the production of a child does not a true father make. A father must interact with the intercede for and then intercommunicate. A real father will teach his child to know God in a personal way, and to all the real fathers and the ones destined to be have a happy Father's Day. Miss James, let me thank you. They give me the wrap-up sign.
Okay.
I want to thank you for coming. I want to bring you back. But to all the listeners out there, hopefully Miss James entertained us tonight with her poems. Please contact us at 901-832-2256, and we can tell you how to get in touch. I'm Thomas Long, and this is P = GE squared, and I want to thank all of you for watching and listening tonight, and I want to thank Reverend Cummings. I just want to say thank you. Thank you. And until next week, continue to love, continue to pray, and hug all your loved ones. I'm Thomas Long. This is P = GE squared with my second guest, Miss Stella James. Thank you so much, Miss James. Say a word as we wrap up.
I thank you for inviting me here to share my gift with the world.
And to you always say, to God be the glory. And it's all about love.
Yes.
And with that, we say good evening and good night. And until next Tuesday, we'll see you. Good night.
Be blessed.
KQP, West Memphis, Marion, Arkansas, Memphis, Tennessee.